Nano Banana Pro changes graphic design forever. And when you pair it with Gemini 3, you unlock 5 breakthrough features that put you into God mode. Today I'll show you exactly how you can use it and create epic designs like this. If you're new here, I'm AI Samson, and on this channel we explore the creative potential of AI. I worked for a decade as a designer for brands like Barclays, the Royal Shakespeare Company, Allianz, Ralph Lauren, and many more. And tasks that used to take me days can now be done in seconds. And that's why I'm so excited to show you what's possible. First up is perfect text rendering. Now, this is the most important because it allows us to ask Nano Banana Pro to output highly dense pieces of text. Now, I'll be using Google Flow for this, but you can try it out for free just the same inside of Gemini 3. For example, I can take these menu items, 10 clean, clear, modern street food menu items, add them into the prompt and say, make a menu with this. I've also given it an image reference, and all we have to do is send that in. And you can see how much text we have here. Now, this is specific pieces of information that need to be rendered perfectly, otherwise it's completely useless. And here you can see that we have this menu outputted almost instantaneously. And if we take a look, you can see that every single word has been spelled precisely correctly. Now, if you'd like to follow along, I've put every single prompt that I used in this video in a link in the description below, and you can get those entirely for free. Now, this is the crazy part, which really pushes Nano Banana Pro to the limits. And that is, we can ask this menu to be instantly translated into a variety of languages, and we get to maintain the entire design aesthetic. This is an incredibly time-saving pursuit. And it even works if you are designing in a different tool and then bring your work into Nano Banana Pro and want to translate it in that workflow. So to do that, all you have to do is add the image to the prompt and then say translate to Korean. Now, my Korean is a little bit rusty, but as you can see, it has performed this task with expertise and ease. Now, the ability for this type of exact text rendering means that we can create examples like this, fine storyboards with exact annotations. But it's truly the sheer amount of text that we can now put on our work that makes Nano Banana Pro a true revelation. Here you can see this extremely detailed infographic. So now we have perfect text, but what really makes Nano Banana Pro a designer's dream is the ability to render out and create an infinite amount of fonts and typographic styles. For example, you can create these words that are made out of the elements that they are describing. Now, this means that we can create incredibly specific and artistic designs for each design use case. Now, you can see that each of these words has been made up from different elements. So this is like melting cheese, zesty orange peel, or pop for popcorn. I love this fizz one. We can get very creative with these different expressions. I love the way that they've used the top of the mushroom here to create the O of the mushroom word. So we can instantly design specific original pieces of typography in seconds. Here are a few more examples. This is a risograph style piece of typography created, and you can see how well it has created this printmaking effect. You can see the grain range here. We can create complex text designs in seconds, like this impossible example shape, 16 by 9, make 10 versions. But we can also challenge this to create exceptionally ornate and aesthetic ideals. For example, here we have a paper quilling artwork rendered in the exact style colors: purple, pink, magenta, white stripes. Now, combining the ability of rendering out accurate text and the possibility of creating infinite new font styles, we can generate our own entire fonts in seconds. And you can simply create entire font sheets that you can then turn into real usable typable fonts extremely rapidly. And this means that when we're designing brands, we can create a brand-specific font. And that's something that would have taken weeks to do before. So here are some tech fonts that I've been playing around with. And here is one made entirely of feathers, a feathery font. But you can also make these wonderful 3D text effects as well. Now, the next major breakthrough of Nano Banana Pro is the fact that we can combine up to 14 different reference images to create our designs. So this means we can take a variety of influences and use them to merge together to create new and original ideas. Now, this is the very thesis of creativity for me. It is taking inspiration from diverse places and bringing them together in original ways. Now, the other thing that's particularly useful about this is just how powerful image prompting is with Nano Banana Pro. We can work very visually, so let me show you an example. What we can do is take this design from earlier, we're going to use that as an image prompt. We're also going to use a mock-up of a website like this, and then we're going to take some inspiration for the graphic design. So I will be using this poster. So I've uploaded these 3 images into the prompt bar, and from here we can reference them all inside of our prompt. So what we can do is we can say, make a website mock-up in the graphic style of the poster, using the image of mushroom from the logo sheet as the main visual element. Put this on a mock-up of the laptop from the cafe. So here I'm taking different parts of the images and combining them together. And what's particularly interesting here is just how well Gemini 3 in the background is understanding these parts of the image. Because you could combine these 3 images in vastly different ways. You could be using the design from the laptop, or you could be asking that the font sheet, that the logo sheet is placed on the poster. But as you can see, we've got all of these elements precisely adhered to, and the prompt understanding is absolutely insane. And I don't just mean that because I know these words are often overused, insane, game changer, breakthrough, but honestly, this is quite impressive. I spent hours as a designer working for brands, creating assets like this, and the speed at which we can now generate concepts and designs is absolutely mind-blowing. It's truly remarkable. So I spent perhaps 3 full days creating these illustrations of these geometric creatures. So now I can even take my old work and ask it to create 2 new animal poster designs in this style. Now, for me as a designer, this is great fun to go back through old projects and use it as the inspiration for new pieces. Wow, and look, we've got these wonderful geometric creatures called Oliver and Arthur, and they work fabulously well, and I absolutely adore it. And you can see just how well it's maintained the aesthetic approach that I had designed myself. I remember painstakingly selecting the amount of drop shadow to put on these images, and this type of nuanced detail can now be accelerated. So we've got perfect text, we've got typographic invention, and we have the ability for multi-image references. But what really takes this to the next level is the resolution that we're now getting out of Nano Banana Pro. And we can export our images in up to 4K resolution. And this means that we can have much finer details on the works that we're creating. In the previous model of Nano Banana, a great limitation was that we were only getting images out that were about 1,000 pixels in size. And that is frankly very small, especially if you're looking to work on large and complex projects. Now, there are still limitations to using this as a professional design tool, and one of those is the ability to manipulate layers or separate our graphic design works into individual parts so that we have full control over elements without affecting the entire piece. For example, if we have our design, like our mushroom website here, we'd want to be able to pull out the mushroom text on its own, as well as these elements of text and each of the individual segments of this pie chart. Now, right now, whilst this isn't perfect and it's not the best use or workflow, there is a major development in being able to work in this way. We can use the image reference feature to upload our image, and then we can ask for these elements to be exported just on a white background. Or if you do prefer to export them on a green screen background, then we can easily remove these in another tool to work with these as layers. So you can see here, we've taken that title element and we've laid them out perfectly on a white or green background. Now, there is a tool that takes this further and gives us more design capabilities that I'm going to show you a little bit later, because we can actually go further than this. But for now, let's move on to the other important update of Nano Banana Pro, and that is the ability to get truth. And that's because Nano Banana Pro is grounded in the knowledge base of Gemini 3. And that means if we ask it to design a specific piece of graphic design, for example, I can ask it to make an infographic about Palantir stock in 2025 in this style. I've then given it a style reference for the infographic. Now the key thing here is that it goes ahead and researches all of the data that we need and it grounds it in reality. Now, a small caveat here is that it can still make mistakes, but the percentage of information that it gets correct is substantially higher than we've ever had. So the amount of hallucination is largely decreasing. Now, of course, you can also get it to self-reference itself. This can help weed out any inaccuracies. You can put it into Gemini 3 by downloading the image, then we can come into Gemini 3, we can upload our infographic, and we can ask it, is this information in this infographic accurate? Now, what we're doing here is we're leveraging the power of Nano Banana Pro and Gemini 3 together. And this is a key way that we can increase our capabilities as a designer because Gemini 3 has excellent understanding of what is inside of the images that we are creating. So as you can see, it's told us that there are some inaccuracies, but what we can do then is we can ask it to update the information to be correct. So now we can ask it to self-reference itself again, and you can say that it is doing a much better job of being accurate. However, it does pull out moments where it has questionable data or slight inaccuracies. Now, this is great because I used to spend hours writing copy that was fake for the design work I was doing for clients because we didn't have the real copy or contents. I would have to be creating that myself and inventing things to be putting in. Now, on one hand, I slightly enjoyed this. I would create up interesting words or concepts to put in for the client work. Here I had floriously to create this piece. But this was time consuming and often the content that I would put in would not be as relevant as what we can get out using Gemini 3. Now, another thing that we used to do as designers, which I think is going to be left to the echelons of the past, is the use of lorem ipsum. And this was a standardized Latin text that we would use as a placeholder in our designs. So to recap, we get perfect text rendering, the ability to create infinite typographic styles. We have up to 14 images that we can use as references. We have our content grounded in truth and the ability to self-reference our designs to make sure that they are accurate, high quality 4K exports, and of course, we have exceptional realism, quality, detail, and aesthetic intent. So now we can see why this is powerful. Let's actually take a look at some specific use cases and create some wonderful designs ourselves. Now, what I find to be the quickest way to get highly interesting designs out is to use inspiration. And for that, I recommend using a site like Dribbble or Pinterest to find pieces of graphic design that inspire us. So I'm going to come to Dribbble here and I'm going to select an image. I'm going to save this. Then I'll come back into Flow. I'll upload the image that I've been working with. And now we're going to do something rather fun because we're also going to put ourselves inside of this work. So I can come and take an image of myself, add that as an image reference as well. Now I've been looking to put together a speaking portfolio for public speaking events. And I've got some copy here. So I can simply take a screenshot of this and then upload that as a reference image and say, use this as the content. Now, a small and interesting caveat to add on here is that we don't have to use the exact content. What we can do is we can say, use this content as inspiration instead of verbatim. And that means that it takes the important information out and it makes intelligent decisions about what to include in our design. So let's pop that in and have a look at how that comes out. Now, here is another very useful tip for prompting with this, and that is meta prompting. So I've written a basic prompt about pretty much how I would like this to be, which is, it's a little bit awkward, it's not particularly precise, it says like, make a website portfolio for a public speaking person using the style of the website, the look of the man, make him into a stylized, inspiring illustration. But here is the trick, and this is where we can really take our work to the next level, is we can use Gemini to say, improve this prompt for an AI image in Nano Banana Pro. Make it more specific. I've then pasted in my rudimentary prompt and asked it to improve this. Now, once we're happy with the prompt wrangling, we can go ahead and generate a few editions of this. Now, what I love is to ask Nano Banana Pro to generate a whole host of outputs. And this is because every time it generates an image, it gives us a slight variation. And we can see we've got some beautiful outputs here. I particularly like this one. Now I wanted to explore this and go ahead in a completely different visual direction. So here is another version that I created, this time with a black aesthetic. It actually feels a little bit more professional, this one. The other one feels a little bit more friendly. But as you can see, in just a minute, I've got out two stunning portfolio concepts for my public speaking. To show you how far this has come, let's push it to its limits and try it out for something extremely complicated. And that is maps. And now I'm a great map fan. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Map Men, and they discuss all of interesting elements about maps. Now, what I want to showcase to you is the power of designing maps with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Google Earth. We're going to select a city. I will go with Lisbon, one of my favorite all-time cities. We're going to take a section of the city, and we're simply going to take a screenshot of this. We'll then come back into Flow, which is where I'm using Nano Banana Pro, and we're going to upload this image, because what we're going to create are some fantastic variations of this. So I'm going to pop that in, then I'm going to be using Pinterest for my inspiration, and then I'm going to start to take a few styles. So I'm going to save this image of this wonderful orange and blue style map. I'm also going to take a useful one, so there's this street art map. Now, creating maps as a designer is a painstaking process where you have to actively go through and create vectors for every single element. So here you can see I've completely recolored this map. Now we can do a few variations of this. We can not only completely recolor maps, but we can also make illustrated versions of maps and have a whole process of fun creating various map styles. Now, one of my favorite is to turn real life places into GTA style maps like this. Now, another remarkable way that I've been using Nano Banana Pro and its understanding of spatial context and information is with negative space logo designs. Now you can see here, each of these logos integrates an object that starts with the same letter as the letter of the logo. So we've got F for fish, and this beautiful fish creature entwined into the shape of the logo. And what I love about this is the double meanings that we get out. You can see here this mountain range changing into an M, or this beautiful rocket making the inside of the R. Now these are incredibly difficult to create and require an intense understanding, not only of the shape understanding, but also of keeping the letter readable. I love the bear one here, really excellent. Now let's take a look at how we can animate some of these designs like I did in the intros. So what we can do is take a design that we like, and we're going to ask for a different version of this design. So the way I recommend doing this is thinking about what we want to animate in. We can, of course, just take this image and immediately go to frames to video, and we can add this to the prompt. And from there, you can animate straight away. But what I like to do is to select the elements that I want to animate, and this gives us more control. So to do that, I will add an image to the prompt bar, and then I will inform it exactly what we want to change in that image. So for example, I can take this image, I will add to the prompt, and I will say remove all text. And then you can see we've got one variation with just some of the text removed and some with all of the text removed. Now I like this one best. And then to animate, we can simply use the first frame as the image without text and the last frame as the image with text. So you can see here the first frame is just the lollipop and the last frame is with the entire design. Now we can go ahead and animate this, and it comes out like this. Now, just to compare that to the version without the first frame, you can see that we have an animation, but there's much less control over that. Now, this is truly just the start, and one of the important things to know about Nano Banana Pro is that we don't just have to use it inside of Google's tools. And there are other tools that have much better user interfaces designed for specific situations. And I want to show you an entire design process using one of those to map out what is possible for complex workflows. And for that, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor. LOVART is a design agent that works for you to generate complex design projects. This means that you can execute creating an entire brand across all of your different media. That means you can create your social media, your websites, your merchandise, your logos, your creative presence across every type of branding. function. Now we're going to take a look at exactly how we can use this to create our very own project. Now I've always dreamt of launching my own AI conference, and we're going to take a look at exactly how we can do that with LOVART. So I'll be using this prompt to kick us off, and this will give us a logo, and that is logo design for AI-verse. Clean, futuristic typography, gradient neon and blue and purple, symbolizing connection between humans and AI. Then I want to make sure I've selected Nano Banana Pro, and I go ahead and send this into the AI agent. Now what's great is that you can see the progress that the agent in LOVART is making on your behalf as you work through. You can get updates of exactly what it's thinking and how it is creating. And what I particularly love is their infinite canvas, which allows us to explore and scroll around all of our work at once. Now you can see we've quickly generated all of the different concepts, but if I want to update this in any way, I can use natural language. We can say, make the logo consistent across all media, and then I've pasted in all of these different assets. Now, you can use a simple prompt like update all of the logos at once and show me variations with that. And it can apply these multiple changes in one go. So you might even ask it to change the colors from pink and blue to green. And you can see we can instantly change the entire color scheme of all of our assets. Now, if you want to make any edits to this for specific areas, you can use the brand new Touch Edit feature, which allows you to go ahead and select the exact areas that you want to change, and then you can reference them in the prompt bar. So you might say remove search bar, change text of explore now to find a collaborator. And then as soon as you're happy, you can go ahead and send this into LOVART, and it will go ahead and make these specific changes. Now this is great because it allows us to have explicit control over the finest details. As soon as you click on something, it has fantastic awareness of what this element is inside of the image. It will name it specifically so that you can see it understands what we're talking about. Now this works for foreground, background, and for different anatomical parts of humans and animals. And as you can see, we've now removed the search bar and added in the Find a Collaborator text. Now, if you select the Edit Elements section, it will break this all up into different layers that you can actually edit. So you can go ahead and even change the font here. This gives us complete control over our whole workflow. Now, there are some great benefits to using Nano Banana Pro. It has much better real-world understanding, allowing you to create smart visuals with real text and information inside, like this poster for my AI conference. Now what's also great is you can easily translate your work into multiple different languages and maintain your design appeal. For example, here is my poster in Spanish and French and Korean, and you can see that it maintains the design aesthetic integrity through each of these versions. Now we can export these in up to 4K resolution and use advanced editing techniques to change the camera angle, lighting, or colors. And there's some really interesting things we can do here. First of all, we can pop in a scene from Stranger Things, and then we can ask it to generate a realistic behind the scene for this film scene. Show me where the camera and lights are placed to film this scene. Use arrows to label the name of the light, what kind of lights, and light settings. Now, first it goes through and analyzes the image. It then outputs this beautifully annotated scene describing how we lit this shot. Now, this can be great if you are trying to light your own studio or attain some type of special composition. For example, if you're looking at a podcast studio that you want to emulate, you can see exactly what they've done to create this type of lighting effect. It's an incredibly useful feature. Now, that's not all. You can also take a floor plan of an apartment, and then you can ask it to generate realistic images of all the rooms based on this floor plan. You can see we've got these beautiful different rooms, all perfectly rendered. Absolutely stunning. But wait, there's more. This is one of my personal favorites, because what you can do is you can pop an image in like this. I've put this one in myself, and then I said, create a clean scientific infographic showing a front-facing symmetrical hot pepper with external features and partially revealed internal anatomy. Add brief labels explaining its biology, growth, ecological role, and the functions of each anatomical part. So it's taken this complex image and perfectly annotated it with all of this information. You can see that we've got this beautiful functional infographic where everything makes perfect sense and all of the text is spelled exactly correctly. But what's fantastic about Nano Banana Pro is its consistency of characters. So now we can get such truly consistent characters that we have beautiful execution. We can simply put in this image and ask to create consistent shots of this character in other scenarios. And here we have our model walking through the streets of this European city and keeping absolutely perfect consistency across all of the different shots. You can notice, for example, just how accurate the hair is. The exact same amount of curls and length is carried across in each of these shots. Even her clothing is consistent. Now, it also works for animated characters. You can see I've kept this character consistent and I've shown him in a number of different shots. This opens up the passage for longer pieces of narrative storytelling. Currently, LOVART are running their biggest sale ever. You can check out LOVART in the description below. Go watch this video next, which showcases how we can use Nano Banana Pro with video. But most of all, have a delightful